Hey guys, so if you watched my first week of senior year video, you'll see that I am currently in a boot, and I'm here to explain how that happened and why I'm in a boot. I documented a good amount of the experience, a decent amount. I have some videos. This has been going on since March, so I'm just here to explain what's going on and give you an update of where I am with my healing journey. So it was Saturday, it was March 13th, never a good day, and I took a 2-hour ballet class. I think I TA'd a class. Was I still TAing? I don't know. It was March 13th. I took a 2-hour ballet class, and then after class, I went to just work on some point work, some turns, some balances, and just simple stuff. And I noticed my ankle started hurting, and I kept trying to roll it out and stretch my calf, and I think I did like a tiger balm massage and taped it up, which definitely helped, but the whole time I was kind of like, this hurts. And I've had problems with this ankle before. I sprained my left ankle. I sprained my left ankle in 2018, and it wasn't super painful. It wasn't unbearable. It was just really annoying pain, and it didn't like stop swelling up for a year, so I had to go to physical therapy, and it was the whole thing. And this was just kind of hurting like that, but I thought it was just gonna go away. But it was just kind of a one-day thing, like maybe I had strained it, like overstretched it, or done something strange during class. And then I did variations later, so I did a total of like 2 hours of point that day, hour and a half. I think it was an hour and a half, not that much. But then on Tuesday, after I had the rest of the weekend to rest it, I went to do point again, and I noticed I was in a good amount of pain. It was pretty painful, and I told my teacher, and he was like, you have really high arches and your feet aren't necessarily stable, so from your ankles kind of rolling around on releve trying to get into a steady position, you probably have little micro sprains in your ankle. So I was like, okay, rest, ice, elevate, compress. So I came home, I iced it, I elevated it, and the next day, oh, it was St. Patrick's Day. The next day, it was not feeling any better. Here is my normal arch, my good arch. It's pretty solid. Yep, looks like that. And then there's this one. And that hurts. And my arches are pretty equal. So this is literally like, it's not even the fact that it hurts, because it does. Like, this hurts. It won't go further. And it was super swollen. Like, it was really swollen. Well, in hindsight, not swollen to its full capability, but it was pretty swollen. And I took it easy in class that day, and I just marked the variations class afterwards. It was still hurting. And the next day, and I talked to my teacher again. We have him twice a week, so he was like, yeah, it's definitely sprained, just take it easy. And I did for the rest of the week. I took it easy, and I came back the next week, and it was swollen. It was still swollen, and it would swell up more every time after dancing. It felt a little weird, but it was not super painful. Like, it felt so much better. If I'm being honest, it like barely hurt at all.
Okay, hey guys, I made it to the studio, despite what that door says. That's the door of Studio C. I'm in the studio B, but I made it to the studio. Nobody's here yet, and I'm gonna tape up my ankle, and then I'm gonna lie on a tennis ball. But yeah, mostly tape my ankle. It's pretty swollen, and then I'm gonna do everything I shouldn't today in dance.
So I was just kind of took it easy.
I'm gonna do everything I shouldn't today in dance.
I kind of didn't. Like, my teachers knew that, like, I was still in pain, but I was like, yeah, it's just kind of annoying. It's not that bad. That Saturday, we were doing White Swan, and at the end, there is a bunch of step-up turns. My teacher was giving me corrections on my step-up turns, and he had me keep doing them over and over and over again. And my ankle felt like it was breaking inside of the point shoe. Like, it was just grinding down. It was so painful. I was like, oh, well, this is great. I didn't want to say anything, but after a while, he kind of saw me like grabbing my ankle, and he's like, how's your ankle? And I'm like, it kind of hurts a little bit. And he's like, okay, don't do it. Sit down. And oh my God, it was so painful. The rest of the weekend, like, it was very hard to walk and much less point it or do anything. So that was kind of annoying. But I thought I was going to go back the next week and it was going to be fine. And it was just as bad when I went to class on Tuesday. I took it easy that entire week, and it was really hard for me to like do that week because I had nothing going on. I had no, I hadn't had I been vaccinated yet? I know I was eligible in the beginning of March, but I don't think I got it until April. I should know this. I took it easy. It was like very hard for me because all I was doing was sitting inside on Zoom and going to dance. Those are the only two things I did. Wait, I was on spring break and I couldn't see anyone, and it was so depressing, and I could like barely do anything. I could like barely go on walks, and the only thing I had was dance. I tried to go back to doing point. It still wouldn't push over the shoe. It looked really ugly and it was really painful, and every week it just got worse and worse and worse and worse instead of better. When it started acting up again, we emailed my doctor and she said I should go in and get x-rays. We didn't. And then the next week, it got significantly better. I only had Sunday off, and then I had to go help out with classes and TA, but it was a lot better. You know, I had to keep stretching it, rolling it out, massaging it with like Tiger Balm and stuff. But yeah, it was still super painful, but it wasn't super painful. It was still pretty painful, but it wasn't that bad. I was like, it's gonna get better. We're fine. I kept dancing, and every week it just got worse and worse and worse until it got to the point that it was more painful then than the initial injury was. And the pain actually transferred into my Achilles. Like, it wasn't even my ankle. It was just my Achilles. Because at first, my main problem was with my ankle. And after the week, then it started feeling better for a week. And when the pain came back, I noticed it was in my Achilles.
I'm just so tired of everything hurting. And so much pain.
My ankle was swollen, my foot was swollen. It was so bad. The last class I took before I had to take time off, I was holding back tears the whole class. And like, you know when you're not crying, but tears are just like streaming? That was happening to me, and I had mascara on. I did my makeup that day. So stupid. And, you know, it was so obvious I had raccoon eyes. My teachers were like, both of my teachers, I had two different teachers that night, and they were both like, Tanika, you need to go to the doctor. And then the Saturday before, another one of my teachers told me, have you seen a specialist? You should go see a specialist. And then my two teachers on Wednesday night, they were both like, you need to go, can you see a physical therapist? Is there a physical therapist you can see? And I was like, yeah, you know, I used to have one for my ankle. And they're like, go do that, because I took class really easy. I just marked variations. I marked one variation, just sat down. Like, I just couldn't take it. I was in so much pain. And by this point, I was fully vaccinated, but I still had to wait my 2 weeks. I know that for sure. I went to the doctor, and she's like, it's not that swollen. It's just overuse. Just take a week off and then take another week to ease back into it, and you'll be fine. If it's not, you know, just call me. So I was like really upset. I have video of me crying like right after her telling me to take time off. Because all I did was sit inside. Like I said, I had my second dose by now, but I still had to wait. It was only like a few days. I think it was like 5 days or 4 days until I was fully vaccinated, but none of my other friends were fully vaccinated yet. One of the reasons why I was really upset too is because I knew a week off wasn't going to fix it. I knew there was a bigger problem, and it wasn't just overuse, and it was not going to get better, because it would have been better by then. And I'm not going to question a doctor, obviously. Like, they are trained medical professionals, and I have a pretty high pain tolerance, so I'm not going to be like, no, you don't understand. You know, maybe I just downplay it. I don't know. So all I was doing was sitting inside all day, sitting on Zoom, then going to dance and sitting there, and I was just really upset to have to keep doing that. But I took my week off, and then I took another week to ease back into it, and I tried to ease back into it, and I was like, you know, it feels a little better, but it still hurts. So we emailed the doctor, and then we got a call back. They're like, yeah, you need to come in today. The doctor you saw last time isn't here. She's on vacation. You're just going to see this doctor. And I was like, okay, cool. So I was expecting to go in and then be like, yeah, I got a physical therapy. You're fine. Just take it easy, whatever. And she comes in. She's like, oh, what's been going on? Wow, this has been hurting you for a while. And she's like, oh my gosh, it's super swollen. I was like, oh yeah, it's not that swollen today. And she's like, no, this is like really swollen. She goes, obviously, worst case scenario, you tore your Achilles, you need surgery. And I had been hearing that from a bunch of people, so I was like, yeah, I know. And she's like, but I do think you have a small tear or a micro tear. So now I have this doctor telling me I tore my Achilles, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. This is like super, super painful. Maybe I did tear my Achilles. So she refers me to an orthopedic surgeon, and she originally told me I couldn't dance. But after some negotiation, she said I could do bar as long as I didn't releve. And I obviously couldn't jump or do point or anything. And I just couldn't really point my foot that hard at all. She sent me to an orthopedic surgeon. When I went there, they took an x-ray. They were like, nothing's broken. They didn't order an MRI or anything. He was just like, it's FHL tendonitis. That's very common in dancers. I feel like I didn't really let them know how much pain I was in because I just assumed I'm obviously here because I'm in pain. And it was a different hospital than I usually go to because she put in an urgent request, and still they were like, yeah, we can get you in like 2 weeks. I had a show in just a little over 3 weeks. I had summer intensive to go do, and I'm like, I just need to find out. So we went to a different hospital than usual, and my doctor was like, yeah, it's just FHL tendonitis. A lot of dancers get it. Just take it easy for another 2 weeks. Like, basically told me just keep doing bar. He was like, we did also see on the x-ray, we compared it to 2018, and you have an osteobonum that's grown a little bit. That might be something further down the line that starts bothering you. But that's like no big deal. So I was like, okay. I mean, I was very happy I got to keep dancing, but I was kind of disappointed with the way it went just because I feel like they didn't understand how much pain I was in. So this doctor just did that, and he's like, have a follow-up in 4 weeks. And when we went to schedule a follow-up, I have to go back to my regular hospital, and there was a dance specialist. Oh, nice hip hop. Sorry guys, I was interrupted. So we scheduled another appointment for 4 weeks and I got to actually schedule the appointment with a dance specialist, which was super cool. So he sent me to physical therapy, which helped, but when I went back to the doctor, I was still in pain, and she's like, here's what I see from your x-ray. You have an osteobonum. It's grown significantly, and it's every time you point your foot, it's like it's punching into your tendon. So you can go to your summer intensive because dancing isn't going to make it worse, but I would like you to get an MRI when you come back and take 4 weeks off, and we'll put you in a boot just to kind of settle it. That's still not why I'm in a boot, because so I got the MRI as soon as I came back from summer intensive, and I went to Knott's Berry Farms with my friend, and while I was there, I got a text from my mom, hey, I looked up your results on my chart, and she sent me a picture of them, and it said some fancy words, then that there was a possibility that there could have been a fracture, or a piece of like fat solidified and calcified and ossified. I don't know. That one really grosses me out. That's not the problem, so thank God. And the doctor called and said she wanted to do steroid shots. So I was low-key freaking out because I'm like, what? Did I break my ankle and just not know? I went to my appointment.
I can't set it up against anything, so I'm just gonna hold it. Basically, we're going to the doctor to find out if my ankle is broken.
And she kind of just explained it to me that there could have been a fracture that calcified and ossified, or the bone could have just grown for no reason and there's no way to know. So I might have broken my ankle, and we don't know. And she said it wouldn't be like a real injury like type of fracture, just a piece of the bone chipped off, which would kind of make sense. And that she wanted to do a steroid shot and try to avoid putting me in a boot. because of physical therapy was starting to really help now that we know it's more of the FHL tendon and all that. So I went to get the steroid shot that Thursday, and they did an ultrasound. They looked at my tendon, the tendon looked fine. They looked around and they found a cyst, and the doctor wanted to be able to drain the cyst before injecting steroids. So we rescheduled so we could do the procedure another day where they could aspirate the cyst. So I went in that Monday and they aspirated the cyst and they injected the steroid, and it was 20 minutes of them digging around. Obviously they injected lidocaine to numb it, but it was pretty superficial. They had to go in really deep, and it was very hard for them to get it because they kept hitting the bone. It was an attending and this fellow, and she couldn't get it. So the doctor had to go in, and even he was really struggling. And afterwards he's like, that was, he's like, do you have a brace to put your foot in? Like, that was pretty painful. I was like, no. And he's like, okay, we'll get you fitted in that, or maybe even a boot. And he's like, you should wear a boot for 3 weeks and take time off of dance. And here we are. And that's why I'm in a boot. I have to wear this lovely thing for 3 weeks, so only 1 more week to go. And I haven't been dancing, but he said preferably to take 2 to 3 weeks off of dancing, which I did, taking 2 weeks off. So that's the story of why I'm in a boot. We're hoping the steroid shot works, because if not, then the next thing we're looking at is surgery. And that's just the update of where I am. If you guys have any questions, or if you're dealing with a similar thing, or you're just a dancer with an injury and you want to reach out, feel free to comment down below or message me on Instagram. And yeah, that's just my little update video. I hope that explains some things. If you have questions, just let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!